In this video, we'll get a look at how to use the 8-slot robot template that allows you to put 8 different programs into your robot. Also, towards the end of the video, if you already know how to use the robot template that has 8 slots in it, fast forward to near the end of the video and I'll explain exactly how I fixed the remote control code that was messed up on Saturday. So maybe you want to take a look at that and get a better idea on how this all works. But first, with the newest version of JAL, you will find, if you go to File and Open, that there is something there called Robot Template 2. Robot Template 2. And give me just a second here, as the computer works slowly as I record this. So I'm going to open that Robot Template 2, and you'll see that it looks substantially different than Robot Template 1. All right, so as we look at Robot Template 2, it's got all sorts of different conditional statements here. We learned about conditional statements a little bit in a previous video. It's also got something at the top here called motor tune, okay? And it's also got our normal robot inclusion, but it's also got programs 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 included. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to be able to modify each of these different programs, 0, 1, through 7, by clicking on this Includes tab on the left-hand side, and you can see that it brings up all the different programs that are available for you, and also the robot include. And you really don't want to go in and modify the robot include unless you know what you're doing. So for now, we just want to, let's write a first program in our program slot 0. And as we learned, program slot 0 on the brain board is signified by having all 3 of the LEDs off, and the others are signified in binary counting. So if you don't know the binary counting yet, I will post a video, a link to a YouTube video that explains it pretty well, and you should be able to know which program you're running. So let's go in and modify program 0. So as soon as I hit program 0, and let me click back on the robot template here, as soon as I click program 0 in this list of includes files, it opens another tab, and I can go in and I can change what happens in program number 0. Now this looks a lot more like our last robot template. And you can see right now in my program 0, I have got the read remote program going. So we all learned how to do that in the regular template. Let me take that out and we'll do it one more time. You push Control and Space Bar, and then all the keywords come up, and we're just going to choose read remote. And what this is going to do now, program 0 will simply read the remote. So when you turn on your robot and you select program 0, that is with all the lights off, you press and hold the button until the lights, all 3 lights flash, then it will begin the read remote program, and your remote control will work. All right, so let's set up program 0 to do that for now. If we want to go back now and maybe put one more program in, I'm going to click on the tab on the top and go back to my robot template 2, and now I'm going to choose program 1. And this one is blank, and it's ready for me to add some code to it. So let's say I wanted my program number 1 to be my robot dance. So I'm going to go ahead and add some robot dance elements here. How do we do a robot dance? Maybe we need to drive out to the circle. So we're going to drive forward out to the circle for 2 seconds. So we know to do that, we give a forward command, and then we just wait however long it takes to get there, 2 seconds, which should go in the parenthesis here, 2 seconds, That's 2,000 milliseconds. And then once I get there, I want to stop, right? And then we're going to start a light show and turn the green LED on. And we're going to turn the red LED on at the same time. And we're going to do that for maybe half a second. So we're going to wait a half a second there. So that's 500 milliseconds, right? And then the next line there, we're going to turn our yellow LED on, but we're going to turn the green and the red off. So let's get the red and we'll turn that off. And let's get the green and we'll also turn that off. For maybe a half second there as well, okay, and so forth. So let's just say I have written my whole robot dance, my swamp dance program there in program number 1. That will now download to your robot. If we hit compile and download here, that will download to your robot. And if you bring up binary number 1 by short-clicking the switch and then holding down the switch for at least 3/4 of a second, you'll get a flash, and that will run your program number 1 or your swamp dance program for you. And you can do this. Let's go back to robot template 2 here. And you can do that with all of these different program slots. You can write 8 different programs that will be available to you during the competition. Okay? So that's how we deal with the robot template. These are all shown in binary with the LEDs. So you need to learn to count in binary at least from 0 through 7 to be able to understand which of the programs is going to be running. Let's take a look at another feature here on the robot template 2, and that is this area right here. Make your robot go straight by changing the numbers below here in motor tune forward and motor tune backward. Okay, so this number 255, that is full blast forward for motor number 1. That's the number we give it to go full blast forward. And 255, by the way, is the decimal form of an 8-bit digital binary number. And okay, so to go forward full blast on motor number 1, it's 255. To go full blast forward on motor number 2, it is 0. And that's what we've got our motors set at right now. But let's say that when I'm going forward, for some reason, my motor is not going exactly straight. Well, that means one of the 2 motors is going faster than the other. So what we need to do is slow down the motor that is going faster than the other motor. So let's say your motor number 1 is going faster than motor number 2 at the moment. So we're going to make the default forward of motor number 1 a little bit less, and maybe we'll make that something like 230. Okay, so that's going to slow down motor number 1 in your forward direction to the value of 230 rather than full blast at 255, and hopefully it will closer match your full blast forward of the other motors. So play with these numbers until you get your motors going straight, until you get your robot going straight. Get both of the motors turning at the same rate of speed. That's real important to be able to go straight, and do the same here with your backwards motion. So what you'll want to do is maybe grab one of these program slots and just do a forward in there and run that program to test your values here in the motor tune forward. And maybe you could take another one of your slots over here and just make it go backwards. And then check your motor tune backward values as well. One more important thing to understand about the robot template 2 is that each of these programs here have something that's called a comment on them. Right here, comment this line to loop, it says here, for program number 0. So If we want program number 0 to repeat over and over and over again, we need to what's called comment this line. You can see right now I have a comment there, and that's for us humans to see that something is happening with this line. That's for us to remember that this is the line that we need to make go away if we want this to loop. A comment is something for humans to read. The robot ignores a comment. So in order to make this line a comment, I just put a semicolon at the start of it, and you can see it has turned green. So now when we program, when we compile and program this program, program number 0 is going to repeat, repeat, repeat. So if you're setting up these forward and reverse programs somewhere, you're going to need to have these two loop as well. So let's say we want to get program number 3 to keep going forward. What's going to happen right now, it's going to go forward for one cycle of the microcontroller, which is, a 100,000th of a second, so you won't even see it happen. We need that to loop through and go over and over and over again. So now we need to find where program number 3 is, and we need to comment this line so that program loops over and over and over again, and we could just plain go forward forever. Okay? So that's something important to realize about this robot template number 2. If you do not want the program you're working on to loop, you go ahead and leave that line uncommented. If you do want it to loop, then go ahead and comment that line. Okay, so now let's take a look at why the read remote, we're having trouble with the remote control working with the loop here. If we would put our remote control, say, in program number 0, and we would just say read remote, and of course we want the microcontroller to read the remote over and over and over again as fast as it can. So we went ahead and we commented this line on program number 0 in order to make this loop. Okay, in theory that should work, but the problem comes in when we say as fast as it can. What was happening, it was slowing everything down as we did it that way. So what would happen is our program would start to run, and it would check and see if program number 0 was selected, and then it would run program number 0, which is read our remote, and then it would come back and it would check and see if all these other things were happening, and if they weren't, it would come back around and check the switch again, and then it would finally read the remote one more time. So it takes a certain amount of time to get around and do these loops over and over and over again. So in order to make this happen very, very quickly, we don't want it to have to go back and do all this again before it reads the remote one more time. So that's what is happening. That's why the remote doesn't work right in this case. Now I'm going to give you a little glimpse inside of what's happening with the robot include. If we look at this robot include, first off, don't modify this unless you know what you're doing. But I'm going to go down here and find my procedure to read the remote. That should look familiar to you. Read remote, well, that's our procedure to read the remote. And pretty much here it says if our command is a 1, which is actually, in this case, a 2, it subtracts 1 from the actual value. So again, your 2 is forward, your 4, which is actually a 5, is stop, a 3 is spin left, and so forth. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to change those things down the road a little bit here, but right now we're talking about this read remote procedure. So I'm going to reset this up now. I'm going to set up what's called a variable. And you can see I do that by typing in VAR. A variable is a place to store a value or a number. Or in my case, it's just going to be a bit, an on or an off. And I'm going to call that read remote. So there I've got a bit, like a box I'm going to store a number in, and I'm going to make that read remote be true or on or 1. And I'm going to say while that is on, while read remote is on, I'm going to loop only the code that looks at the remote control. And then down here at the bottom, I'm going to end the loop. So now when we say read remote, this bit is going to become true, and when it is on or true, I could have put true there, it means the same thing. We're only going to loop this code that looks at the remote, and we're not going to go back through and look at all these other things that might or might not be happening. So that makes it far more efficient, and I've got a new version of JAL out there with this change in there. So that's why it wasn't working right, and hopefully you understand that maybe it was trying to do too many things there at once, and so we need to streamline it a little bit so it works a lot faster and more efficiently.